Hello again, it's Noob, and today we get to look at something very, very special, which is the Covert Instruments Arbiter Bypass set. And I bought this with my own money in the Covert Instruments Black Friday sale. So this is not a sponsored video, it's not affiliated with Covert Instruments in any way. And all thoughts are, of course, my own as always. So we have 8 different bypass tools in the set, plus this case, which I'll come on to in a second. And the first thing I just want to say is this seems to be very much skewed slightly towards a American USA market because of the types of tools that are included, but they are tools which will work on locks which you find all over the world, but like I said, more commonly over in the US of A. So what do we have? Well, one example of what I was talking about is this, what's called an Adams Rite bypass tool, which is a wire which works on Adams Rite style locks and locking latches. So I'll show that off in a minute. They're more commonly found in the US. There are a few here in commercial properties over in the UK and probably over in Europe as well. We have these two notched decoding tools, and I did cover these off because they sell these as a pair, which I got hold of. I did cover these off in a previous video, so I'll cover them off very lightly in this video, and you can go back and see the dual decoder set review that I did a while ago if you have interest in how they work in more detail. We have a latch slipping traveller hook, and this is a tool which is very popular with pen testers, it seems, and physsec people. It is, I guess, a tool which has an ease of use and a longer sort of usable length than this tool, which is the credit card style latch slipping tool. We also have a Shackle pawl knife. So this is for unshielded padlocks, so you can pull back the shackle pawls. It can also be used on some unshielded shutter locks, as we'll see in a minute. We have what I like to call an American lock bypass tool, and this is a bypass driver. Look how thick that is, that handle. This does work in other locks other than American locks, so as long as they don't have one of those little shields on. Again, I'll show that off in a second. And last but not least, another bypass tool is a commercial door lock hook, and the types of commercial locks that these work on are again more common in the US of A. However, I have seen a number of this type of locking system used in the UK as well. So without further ado, let's go through a bit of a demonstration of all of this. But first, let's have a look at the case. Worth mentioning the case. It's quite a nice looking case actually that comes with this. It's got a magnetic closure on it, which means that it doesn't go when you open up the is it what are we supposed to call it? Not supposed to call it Velcro, are we? It's supposed to be called something like hook and eye or something like that. And it opens up. You've got room for picks and tools here, and we have a slot here which this little credit card style latch slipping tool slides into very nicely. So you can of course stick this case to well, objects which are magnetic, or at least that's magnetic, and it has to be what, ferrous iron or steel or something like that, and it will stick. So if you, I don't know, want to stick it to something metal, you probably can. And it does have room for a patch, so I'm not sure if Covert Instruments sell their own patches, but you can stick a patch on there as well, so that can be quite nice. So first of all, let's have a look at this Adams Rite bypass driver, and I have the whole sort of door lock assembly here. We have the cylinder, we have all the hardware, and this would normally recess into a mortise in a commercial door. When you operate this normally, I'll show you how it works. I'll just pop a key in, I'll turn the lock, and you'll see that the whole latch assembly retracts as you'd expect so that you can open the door. That's kind of great, that works fine. If you've closed the door and the little security latch is pushed in, you'll see that the locking latch here just won't go in. Why? Because you'll see that that little stump there gets pushed up when you push in the security latch, just like that, and that blocks this from moving, which is great. However, let's have a look from the inside, and we'll see if I put a driver tool down the keyway like this, it'll come out the other side, and I can literally grab hold. Do you see that? Yep, you can grab hold of that latch and just retract it like this. Look at that. So you can actually just operate the whole assembly. Even if you have this in, this will just push that down and open it. See? Locked. Push that in, it's locked. Grab the wire and the whole latch will be retracted just by this little wire being pushed down the keyway. Now, it works really nicely on more open American style keyways. It will struggle to go down more paracentric European style keyways. So this is a screw in mortise cylinder, but you can't get a wire like this down one of these more paracentric keyways. It has to be one of the more open American style keyways. Next up, let's have a look at this traveller hook, and it's very chunky and thick, so it's quite robust, which is good. It's got a nice long shank here, which gives you good reach as well. And this is a latch slipping tool on doors where there's a locking latch, internal or external, and you can see how this would go in, and as you drag it out, it's hard to do in hand, but as you drag it out, it would slide that latch across. And I can demonstrate that on an internal door in my house, where you can see me just using this traveller hook to go in and just pull that latch. In a similar way, this credit card style latch slipping device can do the same. However, this tool, you'll be able to either use this nice long tip to go in and down, so this gives you nice reach down into the door and then pull, or you can use this little hook and go down and pull as well. And again, what you're doing is you're trying to pull this through and slip that latch like this. Again, I'll demonstrate both sides using the long nose piece first, and then of course we can switch to the shorter stubby piece, which gives you slightly longer reach because it uses the length of the car to reach in and pull. You'll also notice these little nubs at the tip, and that's so you can walk a latch. So as you're pushing this in, you can just wriggle this tool and you can walk the latch down from the other side. So that's quite useful. They do dig in on purpose, and it allows you to just walk that latch by wriggling it open. The next tool I want to look at is this American lock style lock bypass driver for unshielded American locks. And here is an American lock, and what you need to do is slide this down to get the actuator at the back and turn it. Pro tip is make sure that the lock on the inside of the padlock is turned as far as you can anti-clockwise as you insert the tool, to give a little bit more of a gap at the end, and wriggle this in until you can feel it go into the gap between the end of the lock and the actuator. And you should just be able to turn this and open up the lock like that. It can be quite effective. Doesn't just work on unshielded American locks. I have a Spanish IFAM lock here, and I can do exactly the same bypass on this one. I just go in, I get, there you go, between the end of the lock and the actuator, and we can open up. It won't work on padlocks which have these little security wafers installed, because they go over the end and stop you putting the bypass driver down the keyway like this and out the other side. So that's how it would get out between the end of the lock and the actuator and turn like that. With this little device, it would block that tool from working. So that would limit the options of some of the locks, of course, that it will be able to open. So what kind of commercial door lock does this double hooked tool work on? Well, it works in commercial locks like this, which I believe are found all over the US. And I have seen a lot of them over here in the UK as well, just not as common. It has a hook here. This whole assembly would go into a mortise in a door. This hook would hook into the opposing door or a door frame. And it's a bit violent, so lower your headphones for a little bit. I'm just going to open this up because it snaps this hook, this locking hook down, which is made of sort of layers of hardened steel. So if I just turn this, ready? Just flips that latch down, opening the door. You can, of course, then reset this by turning the lock the other way, and it flips that hook back up to lock your property overnight. So what's stopping somebody from pulling down on the hook, exploiting the gap between the two doors or door and frame? Well, if you try to do that, you'll notice that this little stump here just gets pushed further up into this housing, and it just won't work. You need the cam or tail piece of the lock to push down on this little piece here, which pushes that stump down and around and opens the door. But that's exactly the mechanism that this bypass tool exploits. So we unfold the hook like this, and we got one for both sides. So depending on which side this is on, you will need a different sided hook. You can go up through the gap in the doors and grab hold of, can you see that? Just grab hold of this little stump, and then watch your ears, pull down, and it opens the whole door up. Next up is this bypass knife designed for pulling back shackle pulls on unshielded padlocks, but it will work on unshielded shutter locks like this. Push it to the back of the lock, grab hold of the locking pull, and we're open. If we get a clear plastic padlock, you'll be able to see how the knife tool can go down the keyway and pull these unshielded shackle pulls out of the cutaways onto the shackle. What we do is we just gently pull on the shackle, go down the keyway, grab hold of one locking pull and pull it out. Did you hear that little click? Then we go down the other side, flipping the tool over, and just grab the shackle pull from the other side, and we have the open. Last but not least, we have two of the notch decoders. One is very, very thin, and one is a little bit thicker but very thin. So this one, you see the flex on that, and then you see this one, which is very thin. I think this one's like 0.004 of an inch. This is somewhere about 0.006 of an inch, something like that. So you want to use this one where you can, because it's more robust and will last longer, but this one for locks which require just a little bit more finesse, because the space between the wheels, you'll notice that these are in two thicknesses. Both are very, very, very thin, but one is a little thicker and one is very flexible. Look how flexible that is compared to this one. And this is the tool, the thicker one is the one you want to use more often because it's more robust and will last longer, but some locks require a much thinner tool. So where you have to use one of these, you can use this. So the thicker tool can work on sort of cheaper locks like this, where you have a lot of space down the dials. This is all locked up, but you can just support this, lift up and open the lock like that. It will bypass the whole mechanism. For locks like this, there isn't much room to put a thick tool like this down the side of the dial, so you'll swap over to a thinner one and put that down and do the same thing. We just push in on the shackle, lift up and pull, and we are open again. Same again on this lock, down the side of one of the wheels. It doesn't really matter what, as long as it's at the right angle. Gently press down the shackle, lift and pull, and we are open again. This Masterlock 175 has very tight gaps between the wheels and the lock body, but we can put the thin tool in, lift up, push shackle down, and we are open once again. For locks like this, which can't be bypassed in that way, you can use the little notch at the end of one of these decoders to decode it. What you need to do is push the tool in with the notch up to grab hold of the locking bar, and then what you can do is you can feel which one is the binding wheel and basically decode the whole lock. And you'll know you've got the bar because if I turn these to roughly, it's all zeros on this lock, if I turn them all to roughly the right place and then pull on that locking bar, it will snap these wheels into position. Watch this. See how I'm just pulling on that locking bar and they're all snapping into position? That shows you how much kind of pull you get just on this little notch. But yeah, you pull on that locking bar, it would bind the wheels, you decode it just like normal. I do have a video on that on my channel, so go watch that if you want to know more details. So there you go, that was a run through of the Covert Instruments Arbiter bypass set. I think it's time we can do some conclusions. I like to start with things I like and then go on to things that I think maybe could be improved, and then some considerations for maybe the future. So things I like. I think that the general tool choice, if you're in the United States, is quite good. It's got 8 different tools, lots of ranges of applications. They're made quite well as well. I like how robust they are. They put extra thickness on the tools where they're needed. So like this bypass driver, it doesn't feel super flexy, it feels strong and gives you confidence. The traveller hook again is nice and thick, and I've not seen that from other manufacturers where they've added sort of an extra thickness in a sandwich handle like this before. The steel quality seems to be really nice, and the general finish on these is quite good. There are a few sort of little surface scratches on some of these, and I don't know whether you like the spot welded handles. You can see these little spot welds here. That might appeal to you, it might not. I would say that in general the finishing is pretty adequate. It's not the highest level of finishing, but it's pretty good for a set like this, I would say. So yeah, things I like. Tool choice if you're in the US of A, the build quality, the steel quality, and general finish are all pretty good. I also do like this case. I think it's a nice small case. It's very compact. It's stitched really nicely. Nice material. Nice colour choice as well. It works very nicely to hold everything together and gives you an opportunity to put some patches on there if you want. Minor thing about this is that I do have another one of these cases in black with some tools in. They've become ever so slightly magnetised. I only assume from this magnetic flap here. Doesn't really bother me. It might bother you. I don't know. In terms of things that I don't like or think could be improved, if you're not in the US, then things like the Adams Rite bypass driver, this hook tool, maybe even the American lock driver here, American lock style lock driver, they might not be tools you will use very much, depending on your use case and what locks you have in your region. Just something to bear in mind, that these tools in particular seem to be more for the American, well, the USA market. In terms of things I would improve or just change slightly, if I could make some little tweaks and modifications, not many, I have to say. One thing that might be a good idea is putting a small hole at the bottom of this so you could attach a cord, which will give you a little bit more pull if you're pulling a latch. Very, 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 very small feature that would just help to provide some grip, whether you're pulling it this way, because if that's deep in a door, you don't have very much to grip onto, or this way, where again that might be deeper in the door and you might need to pull onto it. A little hole here would be actually, I think, quite useful. I wouldn't take away any of the tools, but I would like to add a sharp angled, so one of these that is almost like it's got like a 30 or 40 degree angle cut into the tip, so it forms almost like a point, because those are really good for decoding wheels on locks where there are little notches or flat spots on the side of the wheels. So I would have one of those as well, and I did mention that on my review of the decoder pair review, where I said I really like these decoders, but a third one, which is doesn't have a notch on and just has sort of an angled tip, that would go down really well. I'm just trying to think of anything else that I would change or add to this. No, not really. I think, like I said, it's a really good set, especially if you're in the US of A. It does what it says. The finish is nice, the quality is good, and if that's the kind of thing that you're looking for, I think it's a pretty good set. A tiny minor thing is that there are some, you probably can't see, some little surface scuffs on some of these tools. They're brushed very heavily, so you don't notice, but there's a couple of scuffs on there, probably from where these have been put together and they just rubbed on each other. Again, not a big deal. So how much does this actually cost? I got this in a Black Friday sale, but currently on the website, the Covert Instruments website, this is down for $74 US, not including shipping and all that kind of stuff, which equates to around 58 UK pounds. Again, doesn't take into account shipping and all that kind of stuff. And that's at today's exchange rates, the time of shooting, all that kind of stuff as normal. So yeah, I'd love to know what you think to this Covert Instruments Arbiter bypass set. Do you like the tools? Do you like the choices? Do you have one yourself? Have you used it? Do you think that my pros, cons, things I'd improve are right? Let me know in the comments. I do read them all and reply to as many as I can. If you like this video, leave a like. It really helps my channel out. If you haven't subscribed, now's a good time to do so. And of course, I will wish you the best and see you next time.